All right. Good evening. Welcome back to another Classic Comics live stream. Been a while. I was looking, and I guess what my last one was the Sunday before Halloween, I think. So, been out for a little while, but we'll get back into it here. Okay. So, first off, we're going to look at Kraven and the box office for Kraven the Hunter, or lack thereof, and maybe the impact this is going to have on Sony's Spider-Verse, which, how you have a Spider-Verse without Spider-Man, I don't know. But, and of course, Chris Evans, big news this week, Chris Evans returning to the MCU. There's other, some Warner Brothers Discovery news. There's this Clayface movie that was announced. We'll take a look at that and a few other things. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and start off with Kraven here. Hold on a moment. Okay, here we go. Right, so this is from the Hollywood Reporter. So box office for Kraven the Hunter bombs with $11 million opening. Ouch. And this is, I believe I heard this movie had like a $110 million budget. So, yeah, this thing's going to lose money. Moana crosses 700 million globally. Sony's first R-rated comic book movie, Kraven the Hunter, bombed in its domestic box office debut this weekend, hunting down only 11 million to come in third behind Thanksgiving blockbusters Moana 2 and Wicked. Kraven supplanted Madam Web to rank as the worst start ever for a Sony-produced Marvel comic book movie, and one of the worst for any pick based on a Marvel character not adjusted for inflation. Reviewers reviewers ravaged the film while audiences slapped it with a C cinema score. The pick also missed its target overseas, grossing a mere 15 million from 60 markets for a global debut of 26 million. Kraven, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson as the titular anti-hero. He's not an anti-hero, whatever. Wasn't cheap, costing 110 million to make instead of an intended 90 million because of pandemic and strike related delays. Its release date was also pushed several times. Russell Crowe, Ariana DeBose, Fred Hetchinger, and Alessandro Nivola co-star in J.C. Chandor's action thriller about the vigilante son of a Russian gangster who has incredible strength. Kraven is more bad news for Sony following Madam Web as it tries to mine the hundreds of Spider-Man related characters it has the rights to. Sony insiders have marketed the film as an R-rated action pick akin to such titles as John Wick versus a comic book movie. Yeah, okay. The weekend's other new major studio release, The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim, which I haven't seen yet. I don't know. I haven't heard much good about this, so I don't know if I'm going to bother seeing it or not. I don't know. I guess it depends on how bored I get over the holidays. Is looking at a fifth or sixth place with around 5 million. Oof. It's an animated film, though. The Warner Brothers' New Line animated feature takes place far before the events of Lord of the Rings. The movie earned a B cinema score. It took in 4 million at the international box office for a foreign total of 5.7 million and 10.3 million globally. Elsewhere, Moana 2 and Wicked continue to save the day and top the domestic charts. Disney Animation's Moana sequel sped past the $700 million mark globally as it heads for $1 billion. Domestically, it stayed number one in its third weekend with 26.6 million for a domestic tally of 337.5 million and north of 717 million globally. Wicked sang past the $500 million mark in worldwide ticket sales in its fourth weekend, including earning another 22.5 million domestically. This is one of the reasons why I may just see War of the Rohirrim. There's just not a lot out there I want to see right now. Thanksgiving release Gladiator 2, which I also haven't seen, placed fourth in North America with another 7.8 million for a domestic tally of 146 million. Overall, weekend revenue was up 16% over the same frame last year, thanks to the strength of this year's trio of Thanksgiving tentpoles. Globally, the Gladiator sequel is celebrating nearing the $400 million mark. The movie has earned a hefty $252.6 million internationally for a worldwide cumulative of $398.5 million through Sunday. Okay, so it's the international box office that's kind of saving that one, I guess. Other weekend highlights: the re-release of Christopher Nolan and Paramount's Interstellar in 321 IMAX locations came in seventh with 3.3 million. And at the awards box office, A24's Queer cracked the top 10 with 791,000 as the specialty pick expanded into a total of 460 cinemas for an early domestic tally of 1.9 million. Amazon MGM Studios' Nickel Boys opened in 2 theaters for a promising per location average of 30,422, while Paramount's September 5th opened in 7 locations for a solid location average of 12,714. So, yeah, pretty much a rough start, failure to launch, I guess would be a good way to put it. So this is apparently had some pretty strong implications for their Spider-Verse. Although I'm seeing conflicting things because initially, let me bring this one up here. Because initially there was talk that the Spider-Verse basically done, that they were not going to pursue the Spider-Verse any longer. But let me see. Okay, well here, this is from Forbes. Kraven the Hunter killed Sony's chaotic Spider-Man universe. Kraven the Hunter marks the end of Sony's strange experiment to create a Spider-Man cinematic universe without Spider-Man. The Venom trilogy starring Tom Hardy is the only success story to emerge from Sony's cinematic universe, but each Venom sequel made less money at the box office than the previous entry, sputtering out with Venom: The Last Dance. Kraven, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson, debuted with a middling 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, in the same ballpark as the widely mocked Madam Web and Morbius. Online commentators posted memes to mark the death of Sony's ill-fated experiment. Kraven the Hunter marks the final attempt to turn Sony's Spider-Man universe into a beloved franchise. Turns out that's hard to do without Spider-Man. Yeah. Sony Spider-Man universe was Sony's attempt to echo the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe by creating their own interconnected superhero movie franchise. The universe was populated by Spider-Man's villains and allies, but not the web slinger himself. It might seem odd to name a franchise after Spider-Man and not have him appear, but everything about Sony's universe has been entertainingly messy right from the beginning. Sony's Spider-Man universe was introduced in 2017 as Sony's Marvel Universe, later revised to Sony Pictures Universe of Marvel Characters, which created the unfortunate acronym of SPUMP. Spunk never became a household name the way the MCU did. Yeah, no surprise. And the project was renamed Sony's Spider-Man Universe in 2021. Yeah, that's a little better. Although, again, there's no Spider-Man. Well, Sony technically owns the film rights to Spider-Man. The studio had come to an agreement in 2015 with Marvel Studios, allowing Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland, to enter the MCU, which helped boost Marvel's box office success. Sony still had the film rights to multiple Spider-Man villains and side characters, and thus went to work on building its own universe. In 1999, Marvel, in a moment of financial desperation, sold the Spider-Man film rights to Sony Pictures long before the superhero movies became big business. Sony successfully turned Spider-Man into a blockbuster hit with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, sparking the superhero movie trend that would lead to the rise of the MCU. Sony's Spider-Man agreement with Marvel included a condition requiring the studio to commence production on a dedicated Spider-Man movie every 5 years or so, or the film rights would lapse back to Marvel. Yeah, so they gotta churn something out every few years. Hence, a mere 5 years after Spider-Man 3, Sony rebooted the character with The Amazing Spider-Man. The failure of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, however, led to the Marvel Sony deal in which Spider-Man entered the MCU, and Sony created a parallel universe. A report from the Wrap paints a bleak picture of Sony's Spider-Man universe, claiming that the studio sank 465 million into a series of films that just didn't resonate with viewers. The biggest issue with the Sony Spider-Man spinoff seems to be the lack of quality control, as Sony Insider told the Wrap. The movies just aren't good. Yeah, well, and again, it's not having Spider-Man in it. Sony's Spider-Man universe was sort of connected to the MCU. As the recent struggles of the MCU have shown, it's hard to maintain a cinematic universe over multiple years. Viewers can easily lose interest or become fatigued as layers of plot build through interconnected films and TV shows. Yeah, I think that's the big problem is them adding in the streaming shows because that, basically it's like this other stuff you got to watch in order to understand what's going on. And a lot of people maybe can't afford it or they don't want to get the streaming service, that is. To the casual viewer, it was never made clear that the Sony Spider Man universe and the MCU were separate franchises that occasionally overlapped. At times, both studios seemed uncertain of how the two universes should collide. Yeah, and I'm sure on Sony's part, that was probably largely deliberate. Sony's Spider Man universe often dropped hints that it was loosely connected to the MCU through convoluted post credit sequences, but the connection seemed uncertain. To add to the confusion, Marvel reintroduced many of the characters from Sony's previous Spider Man films to Spider Man No Way Home for nostalgia's sake, such as Doc Ock and Green Goblin, but these characters were not part of Sony's Spider Man universe. Well, yeah, but they had, they had the Lizard and they had Electro. Only one Spider Man cinematic universe character, Tom Hardy's Venom, appeared in an official MCU post credit sequence, but Marvel didn't follow through with the connection. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of why these films, after the first film, you saw such a, oh, hey, Gwagnar. Hello, sir. Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. I think that's part of why this fell off so quick was that because the second movie made about half what the first one made because I think the first one made over I think made over or what was it like 700 or 800 million something like that. It did pretty well. And it had a limited budget because it was the first one, of course the budgets go up with sequels. Plus it didn't make as much money. There was a big drop off and I think that's because a lot of people thought that that first Venom movie was going to be part of the was a Marvel movie, that it was going to be an MCU movie, and that Tom Holland was going to, meet up with Venom at some point, and after the first movie, when it was pretty apparent that no, it's not in the Marvel universe, I think that's what caused a lot of the drop off after it. And then in the second movie, they kept teasing, around in the build up to the second movie, there was with the multiverse thing going on, there was all this teasing and build up and rumors swirling about how Tom Holland would be meeting Venom and he was going to be in the movie, maybe, or that maybe through some multiverse stuff, Venom was going to go to the MCU, which technically did happen. But again, it's basically just a cameo. He's there for 5 minutes and then he goes back to his own universe. And I think that's also helped kill audience interest. And Wagner says, yeah, they need Spider-Man in a Spider-Verse. Yeah, you kind of need that, as it turns out. What it to me, it's just kind of ironic because Sony has Spider-Man and all his related characters. Now, and I don't know if this is true. I was watching Comic Book Cast. I don't know if any of you watch his YouTube. No, he does a lot of rumors and stuff. In fact, I get a lot of my story ideas from him, the stories that I'll cover from him. But one of the things he put out earlier today is that apparently there's someone or some rumor claiming that Sony had permission to use Tom Holland in their movies and that they could have if they wanted to. But after their first Venom movie did so well, they decided, We don't need him. We don't need Spider-Man because the folks will come and see any Spider-Man character, Spider-Man related character. So if we put him in, it might dilute the brand and dilute the character too much. So you know what? We're not even going to bother with him. We'll just do these movies without him because we don't need him. Yeah. You wonder. I mean, honestly, sometimes I'm sure that running a studio is difficult and highly demanding, and that there's lots of things you need to know, and that the people who run it need to be pretty intelligent. But I swear, sometimes as an observer, when you see some of the choices they make and some of the decisions they make, it's just like, what are you doing? You could wander into any comic shop in the country and just hit up some random nerd and ask them, and they would give you a better answer than that. They would be like, no, that's a bad idea. You need Spider-Man. But they think they know better. Guagnar says the general audience doesn't know who most of Spidey's rogues gallery are. Yeah, they know Green Goblin certainly because and Venom, I think. But beyond, and Doctor Octopus probably. Beyond that, they probably don't have much of a knowledge. And Guagnar says it really should have done 6 movies of Spidey versus the various villains, then followed up with a Spidey versus Sinister Six. Done right, that would have been a license to print money. Probably, yeah. What I've heard, again, this is just something I heard, and I couldn't find anything like any headlines or any articles to verify it, which is why I haven't done a story on it uh, for the stream necessarily. But that their plan, and it may still be the plan, because I'm going to get to that in a minute, because it looks like, again, something that came out earlier today is that, well, maybe this Spider-Verse isn't dead. Maybe they're just going to approach it differently. But I'll get to that in a minute. But that the plan, I think, was that they wanted to put out all these villain movies and build up the Sinister Six, and then have the Sinister Six fight Null. As like a Thanos type big bad. I mean, what are you doing? And they thought that would work. They thought that, but it's. I mean, look at Warner Brothers. They had that woman who came in. She was running the DC EU before Gunn took over, and she came in after after Justice League failed. The guys that were running it kind of got the boot, and they brought in Walter Hamada, I think, and this other woman to run the DCU. And her big idea was, yeah, well, let's ditch Batman and Superman, our 2 most popular, most profitable characters by far, and replace them with Supergirl and Batgirl. And then go forward with a DCEU where our trinity is Supergirl, Batgirl, and Wonder Woman. Yeah, because they thought that would work. And it wasn't even, and the thing was, it wasn't even the Supergirl or Batgirl that people know and like. They did these race bent versions with Supergirl was played by that Hispanic Sasha Calle or something like that, I think her name was, and the Batgirl was like I think they said she was Afro-Caribbean. I don't remember her name. Yeah, I mean, and they think this will work. It's like, how can you be this dumb? Whatever. Anyway, back to the article. It didn't help that Sony introduced an explicit MCU connection in the post-credit scenes of Morbius, which was ruthlessly mocked by the internet, blossoming into a popular meme where refusing to watch Morbius was part of the joke. Sony followed Morbius up with another meme hit, Madam Web, which was mocked from the very first trailer, introducing the immortal line, "He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders just before she died." Madam Web stars extremely obscure comic characters who have a vague connection to Spider-Man. It ends with a villain who greatly resembles Spider-Man defeated by a piece of product placement. It's a weird movie that made the internet very happy. Yeah, I mean, that thing is like MST, Mystery Science Theater worthy. It's so bad. It's so so ridiculous. And I don't know, some may say that Morbius and Kraven are too. I don't know. I don't think they're quite that bad, but I don't know. Some may disagree. It's close. The Spider-Verse is set to continue with the upcoming sequel Beyond the Spider-Verse, which, that's another franchise they're tanking because that was supposed to be out, I think, was it next year, this year, or next year? I think next year. And now that's been pushed back to what, like 2027, something like that. And earlier this week, I saw that the actor who does the voiceover for Spider-Man for Miles Morales in those movies, he said he hadn't even started doing his voiceover stuff for that yet. So who knows when that's coming. And also the spinoff Spider Noir. Amusingly, Sony Spider-Verse movies are not part of Sony's Spider-Man universe. A connection was implied at the end of the first Venom film, but never followed up on. Yeah. Now, Kraven the Hunter, a villain defined by his all-consuming quest to hunt Spider-Man as prey, has been introduced as an animal-loving anti-hero who has no connection with Spider-Man at all. Kraven's solo film marks the end of Sony's Strange franchise, a cinematic universe that couldn't quite decide what it really was, what timeline it took place in, or if Spider-Man was ever going to appear. It was all very confusing, but thankfully it's over. Tom Holland's Spider-Man, however, will return in the upcoming MCU film Spider-Man 4, which arrives on July 24th of 2026. So, what, about a year and a half? Spider-Man will return in The Living Daylights. Okay. Now let me get into that, what I was talking about, because there's another article here that came out, I think today, that suggests that not so fast. Maybe this thing isn't dead. So this is from it's on CBR. Sony reportedly not finished with Spider-Man spin-offs after Kraven flop, might finally give fans what they want. What an idea. What a crazy notion. And honestly, I don't know why they don't just bring back Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and try with him. You could then have him in your own separate universe and Tom Holland in the MCU. I don't know. Although maybe, I guess it might be that maybe Marvel doesn't want them doing that. That might be part of the agreement, is that you can't create a competing Spider-Man franchise or something like that. Maybe. I don't know. While Sony's Kraven the Hunter is expected to have one of the lowest opening weekends ever for a Marvel superhero movie, studio insiders say Sony is still invested in making movies in the Spider-Man universe. Per Variety, Sony's insiders are defending films like the Venom trilogy. Well, I guess they have to. I mean, they created them. Kraven the Hunter made just $2 million in Thursday previews, the worst start ever for the Sony Spider-Man universe, or SSU. The R-rated movie is expected to earn just 13 to 15 million on its opening weekend, and I heard it's actually, it's like 11 million, which if it holds will be the lowest opening weekend ever. This year's flop, Madam Web, holds the record with 15.3 million over its opening weekend. Sony insiders privately said movies like Kraven the Hunter, Madam Web, and Morbius have been creative and critical failures. However, Sony does state that Morbius, which took in 167.4 million worldwide, was profitable. Rotten Tomatoes scores the Aaron Taylor-led Kraven the Hunter at 15%, while also giving Madam Web 11 and Morbius a 15. In the future, Sony insiders say that the studio will need to be more discerning about which of the Spider-Man characters should be given their own franchises. You think? I mean, who would have known that Madam Web wouldn't be a good choice? I mean, who knew? I mean, Madam Web. I mean, seriously, you've got all the Spider-Man characters, and you decide Madam Web. Let's do that one. That's the character we want to feature in a big movie. I mean, what the? This blind old lady who's like an invalid, confined to a chair and blind. Let's and whose power is seeing the future. Let's make a movie around her. Who would have thought that wouldn't work out well? But again, I think that they, when that movie was greenlit, it was, in the throes of the whole Me Too and making every movie, every superhero movie about a girl boss. And I think they were just kind of high on their own hype after the first Venom movie and thought that they could just crap out anything with any old Spider-Man character in it and it would just make money. Let's see. Exhibitor relations analyst Jeff Bach had this to say about the studio. Unfortunately for Sony, they had a taste of success with Venom, and that kind of spoiled everything for them because they thought they could just spin off all these characters. Yeah, I don't think they realized that Venom could carry a franchise, whereas these other characters could not. To not have Spider-Man in these films was the fatal flaw. Well, I questioned even Venom because I mean, really, aside from Carnage, it's not like he has any real big villains, any memorable villains. To not have Spider-Man, yeah, I read that. Okay, the Holland-led Spider-Man films, which are a partnership with Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige and former Sony Pictures head Amy Pascal, have been wildly successful for Sony Pictures, grossing 3.9 billion globally. Sony has also found success with the animated Spider-Verse movies and is producing Spider Noir for Prime Video. Meanwhile, Spider-Man has never appeared in any of the SSU movies. According to the report, Sony's deal with Disney never precluded Sony from using Spider-Man in its movies that didn't bear his name. Bach speculated that Sony could move forward with another SSU film that finally introduced Spider-Man, even if it was a new version of the character. Okay, so maybe they can then. Maybe they can do another Spider-Man. You could hire a different Spider-Man. It doesn't have to be Tom Holland, Bach said. Previous reports have indicated that Kraven the Hunter will be the sixth and final movie in the SSU. A top talent agent shared the following about Sony. They've developed what they want to develop for now. It's really about the next Spider Man film. Another Sony insider said the biggest issue with the Spider Man spinoff seems to be a lack of quality control. The movies just aren't good. Yeah, I've read that already. Sony Spider-Man Universe films have been missing a major element that could have been the perfect solution. Yeah, I wonder who that could be. Kraven the Hunter director J.C. Chandor commented to CBR on the movie's R rating, the first time for an SSU movie. When the opportunity was presented to us by the studio, they were contemplating wanting to market and make the film an R-rated film. And I will say this, my review is up on my channel of Kraven, so please do check that out if you haven't. But I did say in the review that the movie does deliver, I think, on an action standpoint. There is plenty of action, and it is pretty violent. There's plenty of blood. I mean, there's one scene, he sets a bunch of there's a battle in the woods at the end, and he sets traps, and man, some of these traps are brutal. It wasn't something, as I said, that we took on super lightly. We did think about it. I've got a 14-year-old son that is going to be an audience member for this film, so it was certainly something that I thought through at length. Looking into the Craven storyline, it certainly gave us a lot of opportunities to be more realistic, more stylistic, and more honest about the violence in the film. Okay, and this is just generic information about the movie. Okay, so maybe they're going to keep going with this stuff, but just kind of they're not going to kill the Spider-Verse, but just reboot it basically and start fresh, maybe. Okay, where am I at here? Wow, I'm at half an hour already. Okay, I'll go ahead and move on. I had another article related to this, but I need to get to other things. Wagner says it'll never happen, but it would be cool to do a Marvel team up movie series with Spider-Man teaming up with various other Marvel heroes. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I've thought for a while, when they mentioned that one of the movies in this new DC universe was going to be Brave and the Bold, my first thought was what they ought to do is just do a Brave and the Bold movie series with Batman teaming up with other heroes. You know, and yeah, and so a Marvel team up with Spider-Man and other heroes. Yeah, I think those would probably do well, and you could use those films as a platform to introduce other characters and then set them up for their own movies. But that makes too much sense, so they'll never do it. Ay, ay, ay. And Wagner says, yeah, Brave and the Bold would be great if done that way. I think the irony here is that, Marvel has all these Spider-Man characters and they're trying to turn it into a thing, but they decided they didn't need Spider-Man and are trying to turn it into a thing without Spider-Man. And now Warner Brothers seems to be trying to do the same thing with the Batman characters because we got this Penguin streaming show, which was very good. I haven't watched it, but a lot of people have said it was really good, and people whose opinions I trust. And after that, they announced I think there was going to be a Joker streaming show, and now there's this Clayface movie that's coming. So it's like the same thing. It's like we've got all these Batman characters, but let's just do villains and not any of the heroes. All right. Anyway, sticking with the MCU here. And again, this is from the Hollywood Reporter. Chris Evans returning to Marvel for Avengers Doomsday. And I think we all kind of suspected this might be coming. I did anyway. After appearing in Deadpool and Wolverine, Chris Evans is dipping back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe once again for Avengers Doomsday. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. Hold on a minute. Let me take a drink of water right quick. Okay. Okay. Evans' longtime collaborators, the Russo brothers, who directed Evans in 4 films, are directing with Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom. The film has a release date of May 1st, 2026. The actor played Johnny Storm in Deadpool and Wolverine, reprising his role from a pair of Fantastic Four movies made by Fox in the 2000s. But he was best known for playing Steve Rogers / Captain America in the MCU, where he was a cornerstone of the universe. It is unclear in what capacity Evans would return or what role he would play, Johnny Storm or Rogers. I mean, I'm sure he'll play Steve Rogers. I don't think he's playing Johnny Storm. As the new Marvel feature project once again deals with the multiple timelines and universes and is expected to reunite many actors from the previous films as well as current ones. Evans retired from the role of Captain America in 2019's Avengers Endgame, which ended with Steve Rogers traveling to the past to spend his life with his love, Peggy Carter. And I have another story involving her that I'll be getting to in a minute here. Rogers lived decades in anonymity, returning to the present to pass on the Captain America shield to friend Sam Wilson. He originated the role with Captain America: The First Avengers and also appeared in The Avengers, The Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. He had cameos in Thor: The Dark World and Spider-Man: Homecoming. In 2023, he told GQ he was open to a return if it felt right. Said the actor, quote, I wouldn't want the black eye if it felt like a cash grab or if it didn't live up to expectations or if it just felt like it wasn't connected to that original thing. Evans was first cast in March 2010 after turning down the role multiple times and beating out other actors such as John Krasinski, Garrett Hedlund, Michael Cassidy, Patrick Fluger, Scott Porter, Wilson Bethel, Mike Vogel, and Chase Crawford. And I believe that Wilson Bethel, that's the guy that wound up playing Bullseye in the Daredevil show, and who's coming back to play him again in Born Again. And I've said it before, Wilson Bethel, that's the guy that should have played Hawkeye. That guy would have made a great Hawkeye. Not that Jeremy Renner's bad, but I think he would have been a better fit. He would have been closer to the comic book version. On his last day of filming an Endgame in 2018, Evans shared a message of gratitude, tweeting, it was an emotional day to say the least. Playing this role over the last 8 years has been an honor. To everyone in front of the camera, behind the camera, and in the audience, thank you for the memories. Eternally grateful. So we know he's coming back, of course, and as they say, it's not clear in what capacity he's going to return. Is he going to be just playing Cap again? Or, because presumably he's going to play some alternate version of Cap, some multiverse variant, or maybe coming through time, some sort of time shenanigans bring him back in. And Wagner says, knowing the current MCU, they'll bring him back as Hydra Cap. Well, yeah, I was going to get to that. I think that might be a possibility. Because, I mean, they're already bringing back Robert Downey Jr. as a villain, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if they bring him back as Hydra Cap as a villain. And it seems like I remember, and this has been a while back, and I think this was back around like the 2020 election, because he's pretty left wing and he is not a Trump fan or anything like that. And apparently he's not a fan of conservatives. And I don't know that he ever said this actually, but there were some rumors or going around that he was interested in maybe coming back to play Cap, but make Cap evil, as a way to basically to own the chuds, as the saying goes. Whether he'll do that or maybe Nomad, I don't know. Maybe maybe he'll be Cap Wolf. He'll be the werewolf Captain America. Who knows? Okay. All right. We'll move on. Do I have anything else MCU related? Yeah. Okay. So I'll just do some of these other MCU stories first before I move on. I think that's it. Yeah. All right. Let me bring this one up. And this is from Screen Rant. Fantastic Four's new villain tease has raised my hope that the MCU adapt a comic book moment I've been waiting to see on this big screen for over 18 years. So, Phase 6's Fantastic Four first steps might actually recreate an iconic Marvel cover that previous Fantastic Four movies have avoided. Matt Shackman's upcoming The Fantastic Four First Steps will introduce a brand new live-action iteration of Marvel's first family, born in an MCU timeline different from the Avengers Earth 616. Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm, Ibn Moss Bachrach's Ben Grimm, and Joseph Quinn's Johnny Storm will be an active superhero team in their own universe before they meet the rest of the MCU heroes, possibly in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Given that Fantastic Four First Steps titular team will get a universe of their own in their debut movie, they're likely to receive their own rogues gallery as well. A universe far away from the MCU's Avengers offers countless possibilities for an extensive backstory that doesn't interfere with MCU's chronological Earth 616 history. Yeah, the thing is, though, it's not going to mean anything because presumably they'll then move over, after Secret Wars, they're going to be in the MCU. So how much of that stuff would even then matter or count anymore, although the MCU's Fantastic Four will likely end up crossing over with Earth 616's heroes alongside characters from other timelines, their home universe might be filled with unique takes on Marvel characters who have and have not appeared in the MCU's main continuity. In December 2024, explorers discovered what appeared to be a set for Mole Man's underground lair in the Fantastic Four First Steps. Paul Walter Hauser has also been cast in a mystery role, which suggests that Mole Man might debut in Fantastic Four First Steps, possibly as a secondary antagonist. And Paul Walter Hauser, I believe he's the guy, he plays Stingray on Cobra Kai. And he was in that movie, like, was it about 3 years ago? He did that Richard Jewell movie that Clint Eastwood directed. And he was really good in that too, by the way. That's a good movie if you haven't seen it. What was it called? Oh, crap, I forget the name of it. The Fantastic Four First Steps already has two confirmed antagonists, Rachel Innison's Galactus and Julie Garner's Silver Surfer, who might serve as Doctor Doom's apocalyptic herald before siding with the heroes. You mean Galactus's apocalyptic herald? I think that's what they mean. Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom could also appear in the Fantastic Four, as he will be in Avengers Doomsday the main villain soon afterwards. Taking advantage of its independent timeline, Fantastic Four First Steps 1960s inspired universe could feature a wide variety of classic Fantastic Four villains such as Wizard, Terrax, Annihilus, Psycho Man, and of course Mole Man, either in an opening montage or throughout the movie. The MCU's Fantastic Four could face and defeat minor villains like Mole Man as they try to stop Galactus from devouring the world. The Fantastic Four could also set their differences aside with these villains in order to protect their Earth together. Um, okay, in Marvel's Fantastic Four #1, dated 1961, Marvel's first family assembles for the first time in the comics to stop the rampaging monster Giganto, which was released in New York by the Mole Man to fend the Fantastic Four off of his territory. The Fantastic Four struggled to contain Giganto at first, but they managed to stop the beast and track down Mole Man at his lair in Monster Island. If Mole Man appears in the Fantastic Four First Steps, he could unleash Giganto upon the MCU's Fantastic Four, who could recreate their iconic Fantastic Four #1 cover in live action. Yeah, I got to admit, if they were to do that and recreate that image, that would be pretty cool. I have to admit, that would tickle me. Fantastic Four First Steps independent timeline can easily introduce locations like Giganto's Monster Island and Mole Man's lair, aka Subterranea, as their existence wouldn't contradict any information established by previous MCU installments. The Fantastic Four First Steps can also reimagine MCU events and characters for the same reason. For instance, the Phase 6 movie could reveal that the Deviants weren't wiped out by the Eternals, allowing Mole Man to recruit Deviant mutates like Giganto. Despite their wildly different takes on the source material, all previous Fantastic Four movies have grounded Marvel's first family in realism to varying degrees. Uh, okay. I guess. I don't think of Fantastic Four as being particularly grounded, but whatever. All live action Fantastic Four adaptations have put a strong focus on the titular hero's origin story and early days as a superhero team, with Doctor Doom as the main antagonist. First Steps promises to hit the ground running with the Fantastic Four facing villains as extraordinary as Galactus and Silver Surfer, all with a retro futuristic setting. Since First Steps seemingly won't spend too long establishing the team's origin story, the Phase 6 film will have more room for a variety of comic accurate villains. While Fox's Rise of the Silver Surfer introduced Galactus's first live action adaptation, sort of. First Steps will mark the first time the Devourer of Worlds will have an anthropomorphic appearance faithful to the comics. This is a good sign that First Steps will also feature characters like Mole Man and Giganto. Yeah, maybe. It's possible. Okay. How am I on time here? 45 minutes already. Okay. I tell it, I had this other story on the MCU, but it's not that important. I think I'm just going to skip that one and move on. It's just about the leader, and I guess someone saw some of the artwork of what the leader's supposed to look like, and it's maybe not all that good. Okay, so this next one is from the Hollywood Reporter. Warner Brothers Discovery takes step towards separating TV channels from studio business. Warner Brothers Discovery, led by CEO David Zaslav, has become the latest Hollywood studio to rework its corporate structure with an eye towards a possible spin-off of its legacy TV assets. Warner's on Thursday said it was reorganizing its corporate structure into a global linear TV division separate from its streaming and studios division. The new corporate structure aims to bolster its, quote, strategic flexibility and create potential opportunities to unlock additional shareholder value. The studio said it will begin the early steps leading toward the new corporate reorganization immediately and expects to complete the initiative by mid-25. And a sign of just how embattled the pay TV business is, the move by Warner Brothers Discovery follows rival Comcast unveiling a plan to spin off its less lucrative cable networks away from its film and TV, studio, entertainment, and parks businesses. Disney CEO Bob Iger has also publicly said his studio's legacy TV networks, including ABC, quote, may not be core to the company. And Paramount Global's incoming CEO, Jeff Shell, said his company's plan would be to manage CBS, quote, a bit more aggressively for cash flow, given that linear TV is, quote, a declining business. At Warner Brothers Discovery, the plan appears to be spinning off all its linear assets into a separate holding company so that the core of the company can return to growth. In other words, cable and broadcast networks are losing money and they're dragging the rest of the company down, which is, makes it hard to keep the stock price up. So we're going to break these things off and make their own company and let it die on the vine while we try to get the stock price back up with the streaming service. Since the combination that created Warner Brothers Discovery, we have transformed our business and improved our financial position while providing world-class entertainment to global audiences, Warner Brothers President and CEO David Zaslav said in a statement. World-class entertainment? Yeah, no comment. We continue to prioritize ensuring our global linear networks business is well positioned to continue to drive free cash flow, while our streaming and studio business focuses on driving growth by telling the world's most compelling stories. Like Clayface. Our new corporate structure better aligns our organization and enhances our flexibility with potential future strategic opportunities across an evolving media landscape. Help us build on our momentum and create opportunities as we evaluate all avenues to deliver significant shareholder value. While the cable business used to be a cash driver for studios, the TV channels lately have become a drag on earnings, and investors have dinged companies that have been weighed down by channels tied to bundles that have fallen out of favor with consumers who spend instead on individual streaming services. Last year, major pay TV companies collectively lost about 5 million subs combined, and Comcast alone lost 2 million subs, according to Lightman research. Under this new corporate structure, Warner Brothers Discovery will be the parent company for two distinct operating divisions. The global linear networks will hold the studio's TV assets, including brands like TNT, TBS, Discovery Channel, together offering content including sports, scripted, and unscripted programming. The separate streaming and studios includes a collection of linear cable TV brands like TNT, TBS, and HLN that face headwinds from cord cutting and an industry-wide march towards streaming. As Warner Brothers Discovery works to uncover the hidden value of key assets, the studio earlier unveiled a massive $9.1 billion goodwill impairment charge to write down the value of its traditional TV networks. Warner Brothers Discovery said it expects, quote, the new corporate structure to enhance clarity and focus with each division positioned to deliver on its specific strategic and operational objectives while executing on initiatives to further key priorities for consolidated Warner Brothers Discovery. The studio added it will continue to evolve the board to execute its strategy and drive future shareholder value creation. Whew, man, that's a lot of corporate boilerplate. So yeah, I mean, not a big surprise. This is basically a trend in Hollywood now. These studios are trying to basically cut off their cable and broadcast networks because they're seen as losers, and they are, let's face it. Okay. And let's move on to this other, what is it, 10 minutes. Man, this hour's gone by quick. Okay, so this next one is also from the Hollywood Reporter. DC's Clayface movie from Mike Flanagan lands 2026 release. The studio has set the feature with a script from Mike Flanagan for a theatrical release on September 11th, 2026. That's a brilliant choice. A director has not been announced. Matt Reeves, director of 2022's Batman, and Lynn Harris serve as producers for Clayface, with the movie centering on the DC Comics character that originated as a Batman villain in 1940. Clayface is known for consisting of clay and having the ability to shapeshift. DC studio boss James Gunn and Peter Safran also produce. Additionally, director Arthur Mintz's original animated movie Dynamic Duo from DC Studios and Warner Brothers Pictures Animation has been set for theatrical release on June 30th, 2028. Matthew Aldrich penned the screenplay for the project that counts Reeves, Harris, and Teresa Anderson as producers. Clayface is voiced by Alan Tudyk in the animated series Harley Quinn and in Creature Commandos, and by Ron Perlman in animated projects Batman the Animated Series and Batman the New Batman Adventures. Other appearances for the character include actor Brian McManaman's portrayal on Gotham and Lorraine Burroughs' version on Pennyworth. Pennyworth. Ugh. It was announced earlier this year that Flanagan is set to write, direct, and produce a new film in the Exorcist franchise for Universal Pictures. Sure, why not? He helmed the Tom Hiddleston-led movie The Life of Chuck that adapts a short story from Stephen King and is set to hit theaters in May from Neon after premiering at the Toronto Film Festival. Back in 2021, Flanagan tweeted his hope to someday work on a Clayface standalone feature, which he envisioned as incorporating elements of the horror, thriller, and tragedy genres. Well, the interesting thing is of course, they're talking about generally about the Matt Hagen Clayface, who is like the Silver Age slash Bronze Age version. Although there was actually another introduced in the Bronze Age, another Clayface, a third Clayface. But the original Clayface, the Golden Age version of Clayface, was actually an actor named Basil Karlo, who is an obvious riff on Boris Karloff. And he was actually a horror actor. And after he's embittered by being passed over for a part or something like that, he becomes a villain and he takes on the guise of Clayface, which is a character he played in a horror movie. So it would be kind of cool if they had gone that route and had the Golden Age version. But I understand why they're not, because that version's pretty obscure. Most people don't really know it. But again, it's just like you've got, I mean, no Nightwing movie. You couldn't do a Nightwing movie. And I know we had a Batgirl movie, but it never got released. And again, they just changed the character. I mean, there's plenty of characters in the Batman universe that you could do that are actual heroes or even anti-heroes. But no, let's just do all the villains. It's so frustrating. Okay, where am I at here? So what, 53 minutes? So maybe one or two more. What do I want to do? I've got a few I can pick here. Okay, I'll go with this one. We'll get away from movie and film, or TV and film, for a minute here. This is from Bleeding Cool. Oh, go away. Okay. Diamond Comics is making me so stressed I can't sleep. So this is an article on Bleeding Cool written by a comic shop owner, basically about how Diamond Comics, Diamond Comics, who is the main distributor of comics to comic shops, is basically making life hell for comic shop owners. Diamond Comics has retailers pulling their hair out right now, so give your favorite comic retailer a hug when you get your books this week. In my opinion and experience, Diamond Comics is one of the worst companies to deal with on the retail side of things in any industry I've been involved in. That's right, everyone, this is going to be another one of those articles. I manage a comic store in Ohio, and the news that Diamond was closing down their Plattsburgh warehouse last month gave us pause here, as anytime Diamond says things like things are going to run more smoothly or they try new processes, it often means doom and gloom for us. Naturally, this has been a disaster to deal with on the retail side of things. A good thing it's not the middle of the holiday shopping season. Yeah, couldn't have picked a better time. A list of specific issues we are having at our store that your local shop may also be dealing with. One, we have to pay a fee to get books on Tuesdays from Diamond Comics, so we are prepared to open on release day on Wednesday. We are going on 4 weeks now of books being late. They have stopped including invoices and shipments, instead inserting packing lists with no information on our cost, retail prices, or discounts. The My Account tab on their website is where we are supposed to check for our invoices now, which will have them up for the week on Tuesdays by noon Eastern Standard Time. This has not happened a single time, and in the last 2 weeks, they have taken that week's invoice down, so we cannot view them, and we don't know what we owe them for the week. 3, their new shipments are all supposed to come at once to cut shipping costs. We are on week 4 of getting stuff from them daily and getting charged an excessive amount for shipping. 4 weeks in a row of absolutely destroyed books because they started inserting more corner pieces in the boxes, which we told them was a mistake. They didn't listen. The My Shipment section of their website is broken, and we often have no clue when or what is coming on any given week now. 6, I get that they consolidated, but they are pushing an insane amount of product out to the stores right now and just shrugging their shoulders. They should stagger the release so as not to overwhelm us with higher weekly bills and we get a chance to breathe, recoup before the next wave hits, especially with everything going on above. Look, at the end of the day, the only ones who will read this and nod along and care are fellow retailers. We understand. You guys and gals just want your comics to be there when you get to the store. Diamond Comics is making that very hard for us and your local retailer at the moment. Will they fix it? Maybe, but their track record says that it could be a bit. And that might actually explain because I actually went to my comic shop, actually for the first time in a couple of months, and they had almost nothing in the new in the new releases section. It was almost completely empty. So that might explain it. Hold on, let me take a drink of water here. Okay. Will they fix it? Maybe, but their track record says that it could be a bit. This week, when you go get your comics, if your comics person looks a little frayed and tired, give them a break. Most of us are dealing with multiple distributors every day, and right now, one of the biggest is causing them nothing but headaches. And come on, Diamond, get it together. You are not really in a position to be doing things like this right now. We have other options, which you know already. You make it really hard to keep defending you. Why would you decide to make the Plattsburgh move during peak shopping season with the holidays going on? Why not wait until January, February when it might not be as stressful for everyone? I don't think there's any excuse if it was a leasing thing either, as you would have had months in advance to make proper preparations. In my opinion, there is no excuse here. Just fix it. I need sleep. Ah, okay. 58. Okay. Okay. I'll do one more quick one. Right quick. So I'm basically at an hour here. And this is from Bounding into Comics. Warhammer 40,000 TV series with Henry Cavill officially enters development at Amazon. And I was kind of surprised to hear this because I thought this thing was already in development. I thought it had been in development for a couple of years, but apparently not. Followers of the Emperor rejoice while heretics drown in sorrow. It has been confirmed that Amazon MGM Studios has officially moved forward with the Warhammer 40K TV series featuring Henry Cavill as its star and executive producer. This marks a major step in the creation of a cinematic universe based on Games Workshop's legendary tabletop game. Cavill, a lifelong fan of the franchise, is set to bring the sprawling universe to life, combining his passion for the lore with his acting and production expertise. But there are some worries. Fans such as myself, but can't help but think of Cavill's experience with Netflix's The Witcher and wonder will he be screwed again by bad showrunners. The timing of this announcement is quite interesting because it marks exactly 2 years after Amazon acquired the rights to Warhammer 40K in December 2022, excuse me. Now, the first piece of the potential franchise has been greenlit. According to Deadline, a mini writer's room was convened to establish a creative vision for the universe. Based on the materials developed, Amazon opted to proceed with the TV series as the franchise's inaugural project. While no showrunner has been officially named, negotiations are reportedly underway. According to Games Workshop, Games Workshop's July financial report, Amazon and the company have until December 2024 to agree on creative guidelines for the film and television series to be developed by Amazon to secure the rights for future installments. And with this announcement, it seems that those involved made it just in time. For Cavill, the project is a dream come true. He recently shared his excitement about the franchise's progress in an Instagram post. Quote, to celebrate some Warhammer news, I decided to make a pilgrimage to the very first place I bought Warhammer models over 30 years ago, he wrote, the little shop on my home island of Jersey. My incredible team and I, alongside the brilliant minds at Games Workshop, have been working away in concept rooms, breaking down approaches to the enormity and magnificence of the Warhammer world. Together, we've been shifting through the plethora of incredible characters and poring over old tomes and texts, he added. Cavill's message concludes, our combined efforts have led us to a fantastic place to start our universe, which has been agreed upon by those up on high at both Amazon and Games Workshop. That starting place shall for now remain a secret. Watch this space, though. More to come in time, unquote. Warhammer 40K is set in a grim, far-flung future where humanity stands on the brink of greatness or destruction, constantly threatened by ambitious traitors, alien forces, and the corruption of reality by malevolent gods. Their god emperor of mankind is their only means of navigating the realm of chaos, which makes faster than light travel possible. It's not only a game, but dozens of books of lore, video games, fan fiction, and more. It's one of the most creative and fan-involved franchises in existence. Cavill collaborated with Vertigo Entertainment's Roy Lee and Natalie Fiscuso to secure the Warhammer intellectual property before pitching it to Amazon. Vertigo will also executive produce the series alongside Cavill, Andy Smiley, and Max Bottrill from Games Workshop, as well as Amazon MGM Studios. Though it's a passion project for those involved, there's a good amount of worry due to Amazon's less than stellar record of adapting from such source materials. So far, with The Wheel of Time and Rings of Power, the studio has shown they will spend the capital on shows, but will it put the right people in charge? Good question. I mean, I'm sure everyone feels much better with Cavill involved. Yeah, well, Cavill is both starring and executive producing this time, so fans may feel a sense of hope that he'll be able to deliver despite challenges from the Agent of Chaos. Yeah, I think everyone will feel better with him involved, and who knows, with him involved, maybe it will actually be good. Who knows? Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I will be back next weekend, I believe. Let me see. Let me check the. I don't know. I may not be able to stream next week because I think I'm going to have family in from out of town, for the holidays. And so I may be occupied with them. I'm not sure I'll stream next weekend or not, but I should be streaming probably Tuesday, doing another Trek Talk. I believe I'll be looking at Errand of Mercy. I believe that's the episode I'm going to cover. So again, thanks to everyone who tuned in for the stream and those who will catch it on a rewatch. And until then, everyone, have a good evening and Merry Christmas.